You've just spent nearly 15 hours on a plane. You're exhausted, jet-lagged, and all you want is to get through the airport and go home. Maybe your family's waiting outside. Maybe you've got gifts in your bag. Either way, you walk up to the inspection counter expecting the usual routine. You hand over your passport. The officer scans it, looks at the screen, then looks back at you and asks a question that instantly changes the temperature of the whole moment. "Can I see your phone?" Most travelers freeze. Your mind starts racing. What happens if you say yes? What happens if you say no? Can refusing get you sent back on the next flight? Can unlocking your phone expose private messages, family photos, or confidential work information? Thousands of travelers face this exact situation every year at U.S. airports, and most people still don't know what their real options are when a border officer asks for a device or a password. Some people hand the phone over immediately because they're afraid. Others refuse because they heard online that you have the right to say no. But here's the part almost nobody explains clearly. The safest decision depends on one critical factor: your immigration status. What protects a U.S. citizen at the airport does not protect a tourist the same way. What a green card holder can push back on may be very different from what a student, worker, or visitor can realistically refuse without consequences. In this video, I'm going to break down how phone searches at U.S. airports actually work, what authority officers have, what to say if you're asked for your passcode, and one small phone setting many travelers forget that can expose far more than they realize. Welcome back to U.S. Policy Brief. I'm Michiel. Let's start with a real example that shows how fast this can escalate. Imagine a traveler named Daniel. Daniel isn't a criminal. He's not trying to hide anything. He's a software engineer who has built a stable life in the United States. He came on a work visa, pays taxes, rents an apartment, and supports his parents back home. He travels abroad for a few weeks to visit family, attends a wedding, and then returns to the U.S. expecting a normal entry. After a long flight, he arrives at immigration, passport ready, nothing to worry about. But when the officer scans his passport, Daniel is quietly told to step aside for additional screening, secondary inspection. That alone doesn't mean wrongdoing. Secondary can be random or triggered by routine checks, travel history, or database review. Daniel stays calm and assumes it will be a few questions. Then he'll go home. Then the officer asks for his phone. Daniel hesitates. He remembers reading about digital privacy at the border. He believes he understands his rights, and when the officer asks for the passcode, Daniel politely says he does not consent to unlocking his device. He thinks he's protecting himself. But Daniel is not a U.S. citizen, and he is not a lawful permanent resident. He is seeking admission on a temporary work visa. At the port of entry, that distinction matters, because a visa does not guarantee entry. It allows you to travel to the border and request admission, and CBP has broad discretion to decide whether to admit you. Daniel's refusal changes the tone. The questioning intensifies. Hours pass, and then he's told he won't be admitted that day. He is placed on the next flight out. His job, apartment, and life in the U.S. are suddenly in jeopardy, not because he committed a crime, but because he misunderstood how device requests work differently for different travelers. That's why this topic creates so much confusion and anxiety. People hear fragments online, some accurate, some incomplete, and then they have to make a high-stakes decision while exhausted and under pressure. So what authority do border officers actually have to search phones and devices? To understand that, you need to understand one key legal concept. The border is treated differently than the interior of the United States. Inside the country, searches usually require a warrant or a recognized legal exception. At the border, the government relies on what's commonly called the Border Search Authority, which gives CBP wider power to inspect people and property entering the United States for immigration, customs, and security enforcement. CBP's own policies describe two main types of device searches, and the difference matters. A basic search is when an officer manually reviews what's on the device using the device itself, scrolling photos, looking at messages stored on the phone, checking files saved locally. Under CBP policy, a basic search generally does not require the same level of suspicion that would be needed in the interior. An advanced search is more invasive. This is when officers use external tools or forensic software to analyze, copy, or extract data from the device, sometimes including recovery of deleted material. Under CBP policy, an advanced search generally requires a higher justification, such as reasonable suspicion of unlawful activity or a national security concern. But here's the bigger point. The question isn't only what they can search. It's what leverage they have over you while you are standing at the border, and that leverage changes dramatically depending on your status. If you are a U.S. citizen, you cannot be denied entry to the United States for refusing to unlock your phone. CBP can delay you, question you, and in some cases temporarily seize a device, but they cannot refuse you admission as a citizen. Refusing may make the process longer and more uncomfortable, but you will be allowed to enter. If you are a lawful permanent resident, green card holder, you have strong protections too, but the situation can still become complicated. Most green card holders are not simply turned away because they decline to unlock a phone. However, refusal can lead to prolonged questioning, extended time in secondary inspection, and sometimes device seizure for additional review. Green card holders can also face separate issues if CBP is questioning abandonment of residence, past criminal history, or prior immigration problems. The key is, you have more protection than visa holders, but refusal can still carry real practical consequences, especially delays and seizures. If you are a visa holder or visitor, tourist, student, worker, exchange visitor, or ESTA, this is where the risk is highest. You are applying for admission, and CBP has broad discretion at the border. If you refuse to cooperate with an inspection request, including access to a device, CBP may decide not to admit you. That can mean being returned on the next flight, even if you have done nothing criminal. This is the reality that many online posts leave out, and it's exactly why travelers get blindsided. Now, there's another detail that matters, something many travelers never consider until it's too late. It has nothing to do with your argument with an officer. It has to do with how your phone is configured before you ever reach the counter. Most people assume everything on a phone lives on the phone. But modern devices are built around cloud syncing. Photos may stream from iCloud or Google Photos. Messages may sync from server backups. Email and documents live in cloud storage. Social apps pull content from the internet in real time. That means if your phone is connected to data or Wi-Fi while someone is holding it, information that isn't truly stored on the device can still appear on the screen because it loads from the cloud. CBP policy discussions often focus on data stored on the device, but in real life, a connected phone can display far more than travelers expect. That's why many privacy-focused attorneys recommend a simple step before you even land. Put your phone in airplane mode and then confirm Wi-Fi and mobile data are off. Doing that doesn't break any rules, and it doesn't interfere with inspection. It simply prevents automatic cloud syncing while the device is being handled. There's a second setting many travelers overlook: biometric unlock. If your device unlocks with Face ID, fingerprint, or other biometrics, consider using your phone's lockdown feature so the phone requires a passcode. On iPhone, there are ways to temporarily disable Face ID, Touch ID. On many Android devices, there's a lockdown mode in the power menu. The goal is not to be dramatic, it's to avoid accidental or pressured biometric unlocking when you intended to control access. Now let's talk about what to say if you are asked for a password. If you decide to comply, especially if you're a visa holder, and refusal could mean denial of admission, you can still protect your position by being calm and precise. Many lawyers suggest that if you provide access but do not want it treated as voluntary consent, you say something like, "I'm providing access under protest. I do not consent to a search." That doesn't guarantee the officer will stop. It usually won't. But it creates clarity that you are not freely consenting, which can matter later if a lawyer needs to challenge how the information was obtained. If you decide not to provide the password, understand what may happen next. You can be delayed, your device can be seized, and for visa holders, admission can be denied. That's why status matters so much. The right answer online is not the right answer for everyone at the port of entry. So here is a simple, practical action plan for any traveler coming to the US in 2026. Before landing, secure your device. Put your phone in airplane mode, turn off Wi-Fi, and consider disabling biometric unlock so the device requires a passcode. Log out of sensitive apps if you can do so safely without losing access you need, and remove confidential work materials from your travel device whenever possible. Know your category before you travel. Citizens, green card holders, and visa holders face different risk levels and consequences. If you are not a citizen or green card holder, understand that CBP can deny admission even if you did nothing criminal, and refusal to cooperate can be treated as a reason to refuse entry. If you are pulled into secondary, stay calm. Answer questions clearly. Don't volunteer extra information beyond what's asked. If you are asked for access, weigh the decision based on your status and your situation. If you comply but want to preserve your position, use a short statement like, "I do not consent, but I will comply." And finally, avoid surprises by preparing for the possibility. Border screening can feel random, but it isn't always random. Travel patterns, prior immigration history, and inconsistencies can increase the odds of device requests. The best time to understand this is before your flight, not while you're standing at the counter exhausted and scared. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe to US Policy Brief and turn on notifications so you don't miss updates on border procedures and travel screening. If you want, comment with your travel status, US citizen, green card holder, visa holder, or STA, and I'll reply with a short checklist of what documents and device settings make the most sense for your category. Thanks for watching. I'm Michael, and I'll see you in the next update.